Sylvia is now married, but he thinks this finally proves he's not gay. Conventionally, this is the bit of the day where the bridesmaid would say a few words. However, in a break from tradition today, Catherine's asked me to speak. She tells me I wasn't her first choice, because I have less facial hair than some of the girls she had in mind. So I'd just like to echo Dan's sentiment and say thank you to Brian and Paddy. Thank you both for the love and support you've shown to Dan and Catherine in the build-up to today, and secondly to Rob and Gwyneth. You've carried yourselves with dignity and pride throughout today, even whilst watching your beautiful daughter marry someone like Dan. There are a few people that couldn't make it today. They have sent their best wishes, so very quickly just read some cards for you. It says, congratulations. This isn't a send-up, this is with love from all the Cubs. Good luck and best wishes, Catherine and Dan. Hope you have a lovely day from Barbara. Congratulations to both of you. I hope the day goes well. Have a long and happy marriage. Love, Sean, Rich, George and Dylan. To Daniel and Catherine, with love and congratulations from Auntie Pam and Uncle Ivan. And Auntie Margaret sent her best wishes as well. And finally, there's a card here that just reads, Dan, I'm sorry we couldn't make it work. Lots of love, George Michael. It is said in ancient times the Egyptians believed mischievous spirits would fly by a wedding, and to cause trouble they'd steal the bride. So to stop this, they created bridesmaids. By dressing the maids as beautifully as the bride, they thought that the spirits would just fly by empty-handed. And I'm sure you'll all agree today that Adele and Hattie look absolutely gorgeous today. And although Joshua couldn't be persuaded to wear a dress, he looks great. Where do I start? There are lots of things I could tell you about Dan today. Some of them you wouldn't believe, most of them you probably would. There are, however, some stories you can tell at a wedding, and there are others that might be interesting to tell but really can't be told. So for that reason alone, the stories about the student nurse and the taxi driver, the girl, her mum on the side of the bar, and Dan's trip to Amsterdam, well, all things I won't be talking about today. However, I think you can buy the DVD at the bar. Dan and I have been friends now for nearly 20 years. I mean, that should tell you how difficult he finds it to make friends. I can also tell you that Dan sees himself as something of an entrepreneur. This started as a teenager at school, when Dan began his first get-rich-quick scheme. By selling bags of herbs to fellow pupils, he was sure he was going to make his first million. However, as soon as the teachers found out, Dan was whisked off to the headmaster's office, where he was told how bitterly disappointed they were by his behaviour. I imagine their disappointment was third down the list after angry out-of-pocket pupils from West Buckland School and the manager of Sainsbury's, whose sales of oregano plummeted. The disappointment speech, as it became known, was something that Dan would hear a lot throughout his teenage years. His parents, his girlfriends, his girlfriend's parents, employers, and the police all gave versions of his speech to Dan in the hope of turning him around. It was after one such speech that Dan's mum and dad finally threw him out of the house for wetting the bed. He was 17 and he'd managed it from the chest of drawers. He still maintains if Brian hadn't woken up, he'd have got away with it. In his late teens, though, things finally seemed to have sunk in, and Dan started to mend his ways. He got a job as a library assistant. That was then followed by several years' service in the lingerie department at Marks and Spencer. There's also a little known fact that when he first moved to Swansea, Dan got a job at a local butcher's, but he was fired after he got caught putting his willy in the bacon slices. Her parents weren't very proud either. For some of you who haven't known Dan as long as I have, I'd like to reassure you all that he's always been a hypochondriac. When the flesh-eating bug hit the headlines, at least himself he had that. It was the same with mad cow disease, MRSA, and bird flu. He once called out the doctor because he thought he had a brain tumour, which was the migraine. He even got taken away from Swansea Leisure Centre in an ambulance. Turns out he just got overexcited while he was having a shower. And then, of course, he did actually get ill. Imagine how guilty I felt when he phoned me from his hospital bed and told me this time he really was poorly. When I asked him what the specialist had said, he said that she had told him he had to stop masturbating. I said, why? Why on earth is that? And he said, well, she was trying to examine me. I'm sure you'd understand that after hearing all of that, the part of me is pretty amazed anybody would want to marry Dan. He's always been pretty hopeless with girls. He maintains it's because he's fussy, but we know different. The lollipop kid, as he was affectionately known by one of his girlfriends, has a habit of not thinking before he talks. For example, when he first moved away from Devon, we came up to visit him and went out with a load of his newly formed Welsh friends. Somebody asked him what Swansea was like, and Dan replied, oh, I realise now they've named Wales after the girls I've met. Right, the fire echoes over there. Once we were in a nightclub where he spent most of the evening in a corner kissing and cuddling a girl, only to tell her when we got outside that she looked much better in the dark. During another memorable night out, Dan started a conversation with a girl who had a broken leg by saying, all right love, do you mind if I play with your crutch? According to that, it seems like he had his sensible head on the day he met Catherine. When I asked her what her first impressions of Dan were, she said that he was one of those guys that everyone takes a shine to. He's very caring, he's sensitive, and he's genuine, but not at all homosexual like she said. Part of the reasons why people think Dan is gay. Not because he owns a pair of hair straighteners. It's not because once a month he gets his hair cut by a special man friend who also gives him a free head, neck and shoulder massage. It's not because he has no bodily hair. It's not because he tried to bump Smithy when they shared a bed together. Sorry about that. It's not even because he wears fake tan. Now, we all know they're fashion followers and trendsetters. I like to think I'm one of those people who sets a fashion. And Dan over the years has tended to copy me. For example, if you look at the picture here, you'll see here I'm experimenting with a retro World War II look. I'm using modern style there with I don't know, old school apparatus. I didn't think it would take on, but a few weeks later, who turns up in the beer garden of my local pub? I should warn you about the next photo, if you're easily disturbed. Trust me, look away. Okay, so here's a picture of me pushing the boundaries of common sense. However, not to be outdone, if you don't turn up as much as they do like. Thanks for Fred to get rid of that. I made a video, what are you on about? Shortly after that night, Dan asked Catherine's father for a hand in marriage, and Bob said that was fine by him as long as it was the same hand that had been given into his wallet for the last 2 years. when they announced they were engaged, we were all pretty certain that Dan was only marrying Kath because he can't marry his motorbike. I put this to Dan, and he reckons that Kath and his bike have got an awful lot in common, because they both chatter constantly at high speed, the rear ends are soft and wobbly, the intake is placed way too close to the exhaust, and the maintenance costs are outrageous. I would like to say that I do feel very lucky to have Dan in my life, and although I've been up here ridiculing him for 5 minutes, friends like Dan do really only come along once in a lifetime. In the time that I've known Dan, Dan's always been there for me. If I needed him, sometimes he was just there to say what I needed to hear or hear what I needed to say. And anyone who's seen him with Joshua will know how patient, calm, loving and paternal he is. And I'm sure you'd all agree we do with a few more dads like Dan in the world. Catherine is beautiful, she's intelligent and she's funny. She cooks like my Jell-O Lawson, and she also has the patience of a saint. Dan, I can say with my hand on my heart that you're one of the luckiest men alive. I can also say she writes a cracking best man speech. So before I sit down, I'd like to wish them both all the best on honeymoon. For those of you that don't know, they're off to North Wales. At least I think that's where they're going, because he said he couldn't wait to go away with Catherine and he was going to bang her for a while. And Joshua, all the very best together as a family, and I ask everyone to please be upstanding and joining the toast to the children.